This is Tina Williams at Something Special Designs, where I do French Provincial, French Country, Cottagecore, farmhouse, and shabby chic decor, all with thrifted items. I hope that if you enjoy this video, that you will subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think about this video. All right, let's get into what we're going to do for today. I have 4 different things that I'm going to be making into risers for my displays, and 3 of them are thrifted items that I bought very inexpensively. 1 is trash, and so let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy this. So today what I'm going to do is I have this board that I found out in the garage. It's just a piece of extra wood. I found these little tiny feet that you can buy like at Hobby Lobby or Walmart or whatever. And I'm going to make a little riser out of this. I'm needing some risers for my new channel. And I'm going to be using amazing casting resin. If you've ever not used it, it's really fun to use. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jazz up this little board that I found, this extra wood, with some of these molds. So I will put all of these in the description box. And I bought them at different places. So basically it's Etsy and it's IOD on this mold. So anyway, I am using my amazing casting resin. And you do it 50-50 parts A and B. And you take each one and then you mix it up. I'm putting it into another cup to mix. And the thing about this stuff is it sets up like within 10 minutes. I actually think less time than that. So you don't have a lot of time to work with it. But what's great about it is if you're trying to get things done, it works really, really well. You could use these same molds, any mold, really, with any kind of silicone mold. You can use them, cake decorating molds, whatever, with the same resin. You could also use it clay if you wanted to, but I like to use the resin when I'm trying to get something done in a certain period of time. And what you see there is I'm not going to be using that mold in this, but I always have an extra mold ready for me in case I mix too much, because you don't want to waste this stuff. It's not super expensive for how much you get, but it is not cheap. So you want to make sure that you're not wasting it, and you can't just set it aside because it'll start to set up pretty quick. So what I do is I just always have a backup mold next to me so that I can go ahead and pour the extra in there. And you can see it's already starting to get a little bit stiff inside that cup. And it will turn completely white when it's done. And the white that you see in the molds there, that's just from cornstarch from when I used some air dry clay that I haven't cleaned out of my molds yet. But anyway, that's pretty much what you're seeing there. So I'm looking for a mold that I can put on the side of that board. I don't want to just, paint a board and put something on it and then call it a day. I want it in the end to not look like a board that I found in my garage. So anyway, this is just, I think it's from a shelf or something my husband probably put in my craft room. If you notice on the mold, it's already starting to turn white. That means it's already starting to cure. And that's why I'm saying you don't have a lot of time when you're doing these. You really have to be prepared to be ready to use the molds. Okay, so you can see just how quickly this cures. So you want to always have an extra mold next to you in case you pour too much so you don't waste it. And unfortunately, I am going to have to do this over and over because I only have one of these molds to make enough to go all the way around, but that's just how it works. So I'm on doing multiple ones, and I decided to use a different trim. And I'm showing you that I went around the corner, and the way that you do that is you wait for your mold to not be completely dry, and you will go around the corner. Let me show you how you do that. So this is still very pliable and bendable. And at this point, what I do is I will take it and glue it down. And I use Gorilla Glue construction adhesive. But when I want to go around the corners like that, I'll use a little bit of super glue. I also cast some little corners that I think I'm going to put on the corners of this board. And I also cast some other little pieces that I'm going to just kind of see. You know, I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use. I usually do that. I'll do like maybe some extras, and then I will go ahead and add a little extra and put it in there. And then, you know, see, I keep the extra pieces. You know, I'll always use them on something else. So I'm going to go ahead and add some little side pieces that I may put on the bottom or the sides. I'm not sure yet. So now what I'm doing is I'm getting my little feet to put on there, and you can see they're round little feet, but they're flat on one side, and you glue the flat part onto the board. And I'm using Gorilla Glue construction adhesive clear. It dries clear, and it's very permanent. And the other thing that I use is Fix-All. I use that sometimes, and that is basically it's like E6000. It's the same thing. You can get it at the dollar store, but I like it because it comes in small tubes. But anyway, I use that too as kind of a quicker adhesive, and that's what I used to go around the corners on this. The important thing when you're putting the hot glue on to temporarily affix it to the board or whatever you're doing, you don't want to put too much hot glue. You want mainly your construction glue or your Fix-All or E6000. You want that to be making contact with the surface. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're gluing it down with just the hot glue, and the hot glue won't last. It will definitely come off at some point. So I'm going to go around and I do all 4 of these, and I'm going to have to let them wait for a little bit before I can really work on this board. And it will dry within 30 minutes to where I can use it. But I mean, it's dry pretty much right now because of the hot glue. But I like to give it a little bit of time so that I can feel like those feet aren't going to come off. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the little corner pieces on that I cast. Again, I'm trying to get this whole thing to not look like a piece of scrap wood that I found in my garage, which is exactly what it is. So there's something very satisfying about doing that, by finding something that you would probably throw away and then making something out of it that you really like. And, you know, and that's one thing too that I'm going to try and do on this channel is if I wouldn't put it in my house, I'm not going to show it to you, you know. So I want it, I mean, just because it's inexpensive and doesn't mean that it's a good thing. I mean, I want it to look like something that, you know, that I would put in my house. Okay, so now I have these pieces that I cast, these long pieces, and I want to put them on the side. So what I've done is I've kind of measured the distance from the ends of those little corner pieces, and I cut them. These are very easy to cut with just some scissors, and I cut them to fit, and now I'm gluing them on the side. I don't want to put too much on the top of this riser because ultimately that's what it's supposed to be, a riser, so that I can, you know, put things on it to lift them. I want it to be decorative, but at the same time, I do want it to have a lot of flat surface so that I can, you know, I can put things on it. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead, and on this, I think I'm using my Fix-All and a little bit of hot glue to put that on, because I want these to dry pretty quick. This dries a little bit quicker, so we can get to the next part. So now I've got my little, I don't even know what to call this. It looks almost like a stool, but maybe like a dresser. I picked it up at a thrift shop, and I am going to be using some Dixie Belle. I think it's called coffee bean or coffee something. Yeah, I think it's coffee bean. It's a really cool color because it's not really black. It's like a very, very dark brown. And it's great to use this on like underneath things. And we're going to go ahead and cover this whole thing. And it's just raw wood. I'm not prepping it or anything. It's only going to take one coat. And I'm going to go over the whole thing. It's a little tricky to paint because it's got all the little parts and all the stuff on it. But anyway, the whole idea in making these different risers is so that I have some taller ones and shorter ones. I'm mainly going to be using these when I photograph things on my channel and eventually probably around my house. So anyway, so I am going to paint all of this. This is going to be the bottom coat that is just going to be kind of peeking through. So, but anyway, it's a really cool color. I like it for just for color in general. So now I'm going to take my home decor crackle, and I really like this crackle. It works really well. You could use just regular old glue. You don't have to use this. I do find that the glue, you have to make sure you don't let it dry too much or it won't work. This stuff, you can kind of let it dry and come back to it. And I'm putting it on pretty thick because I want this to look very distressed. I'm trying to do all these pieces a little bit different so that you're not watching me just do the same thing over and over again. And I also don't want them all to look the same. And I like to just do different things and play with different things. And that's a lot of what my channel is going to be about, is I like to try different things and make things, be cohesive, but not all just, look identical. So I get bored very, very easy. So you'll see that I kind of switch things up a whole lot. Anyway, you got to make sure that you do long strokes and you do not go back over what you've already done. You don't want to go back and forth with your brush because it'll start messing with the crackle and you'll have like big chunks everywhere. So you don't want to do that. So I'm going to do the drawer and then that's going to be it as far as putting the crackle. So now I'm back on my little board because it's dry. The feet are dry. The little pieces are dry so that I can work with them. And I am using the Dixie Belle. I don't remember. It's one I really, really like. I think it's not drop cloth. Buttercream. That's what it is. It's buttercream. I love buttercream. And I love drop cloth. Drop cloth is more of like a beige. Buttercream it's not stark white, but it's a nice color. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put 2 coats of this over the whole thing, including the molds. Put 1 coat on and let it dry. And I'm mixing it up pretty good. This paint I love this paint. It works really, really well. It's super thick. I always, when I'm putting my second coat on, I have a mister, and I take my mister and I just kind of mist the flat parts, and I will just mist it a little bit and then paint because it makes it a little bit smoother so that your final coat's smoother. Sometimes, I don't want it really smooth. I want a lot of texture, I'm not looking for like a perfect finish on this, like for furniture. I'm just, if you notice on this board, there's like dings and dents and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure I hammered on it or something at some point, just something. And I'm leaving all that in there. I'm not really, I'm wanting it to look like something old. So, but anyway, I'm going to go through and make sure I get all of the little pieces inside the mold. And even though it's white, you can see the difference in the color of this buttercream. It's really, 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 I would recommend this. Anyway, I go over the whole thing and I do make sure that I get inside the mold, but I don't want it to fill in all the little pieces and the little crevices with paint because you don't want to lose all that definition. That's the great thing about using resin on projects is that you can really get in there and just add the paint and not worry about damaging them. Now, to be fair, if you put your castings on of your air dry clay and let it dry overnight, like glue it on and then let it dry, you can do the same thing. So now I'm going to go back over my little, I don't know what to call this thing. I guess I'm going to just call it like a little chair but it's got a drawer in it. So you have to do straight strokes and do not go back and forth, just kind of like with the crackle on there. Because if you do, it will take chunks of your paint out. Which, honestly, doesn't necessarily look bad. It just depends on, the look that you want. But I want this to have a heavy crackle, but I don't want giant chunks coming out. So, you just have to make sure that you don't go back and forth with your brush because that's what pulls. It just kind of pulls big chunks of paint off, and you probably don't want that. So anyway, I'm going to go through, and it's a little bit more tedious, I think, on this little chair because there's all these little pieces everywhere, and going in and out, whatever. But anyway, it's kind of a fun finish. I always like it because you never know what you're going to get until it dries. And I just let it air dry. I don't really mess, with, because it dries pretty quickly. You'll see the crackles starting before you even finish the whole thing. So now I'm going to go ahead and just do my little drawer. And again, I'm trying not to go back and forth too much on this. And then I'm going to make sure I get all the little sides and everything else. And now we're going to do the top. And this is the part that it's a little harder because when you have long things like that, you have to kind of load up your brush. Like there, I didn't put enough. But you don't want to go back over what you already went over. Like, see how I'm just adding to where I end if I don't have my brush all loaded up? So that's kind of how it just go back and then just add to what, where you stop. Don't go back over it. That's the part that really gets you in trouble with this stuff. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am adding a clear coat. It's just a water-based clear coat. You can use any kind you want as a matte finish. And I'm doing that because we're going to be doing some things to this later that having the clear coat under there will really help. So I'm going to go ahead and pretty much just go over the whole thing and let it dry. And then we'll be ready to go on to the next step. I'm going to make sure I get it all in the molds and everywhere else, especially in the molds, because we're going to be putting a finish on this later. And if we don't put the clear coat on there, we won't be able to distress it back. So this is a really important part of it. And also, too, we're going to be adding an IOD transfer, and it works better if you have sealed it first. And you do need to make sure that your sealer is completely dry or your paint is completely dry or it won't work. And do not use wax. If you use wax on your, it will not stick. Okay, so now I'm going to, as I'm letting that other piece dry, I'm sorry we go back and forth, but that's just the most efficient way to do it because for me, what happens is I have something drying, so I might as well be doing something else and then switch back and forth. That's usually how I do projects. So I think we're working on our little chair or whatever this thing is. And I'm putting a clear coat on this. I was looking through my IOD ephemera pack, and it's a transfer pack, and trying to decide what I'm going to use. And I'm just going to take a clear coat and go over this and see how great that crackles. I mean, now that's a heavy crackle, and I did that on purpose. So you may not want to do that. If you don't want it that thick, then you just don't put the crackle medium on that thick. So now we're back to our little, I don't know what to call this, little riser, long riser. I call it my scrapwood riser. So now I'm going to try and pick out another transfer on here. I'm pretty sure I know what I want to use, but I'm probably going to have to piecemeal some things together. So I'm cutting out some words that I think I'm going to want to use on there. And then I know I want to use one of those two little birds. I've been dying to use those. I think they're gorgeous. Anyway, I'm cutting out the shorter one because I think it's going to be just the right size. And I cut out these words. And that's the one thing you have to realize. Those were on two different pages and they didn't necessarily go together. You can take these transfers and mix and match and do whatever. And, you know, they're a little pricey, but honestly, you get so much in them. You can do so many projects with these. So anyway, you can see I decided not to use what I picked out. I went ahead and decided I'm going to try and get something smaller because it seemed a little overwhelming. I have no idea what these words say. They're in French, but I'm doing what looks good. That's basically what I'm doing. So I'm cutting these other ones out because I think these will work better and will fit better. And I will save those other ones. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to remove that shiny plastic from the backing. Otherwise, they'll be sticky and they'll stick to whatever. And you'll lose your transfer then. I'm not going to be able to fit all of those words on there. And I'm going to cut them. And what I don't show you in the video is I actually overlap the part that I cut. You'll see it in the end product. I just forgot to record it. So anyway, you'll see it when we're all done. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to eyeball it and measure it and get an idea of where the middle is. And I'm not marking it or anything. I'm actually looking on my my little riser, and there's like a certain spot where it has, I can tell where the middle is, and I'm kind of looking at the birds and which one's in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and just place it, you know, pretty much eyeballing it, but an idea of where it is, kind of in the middle. These lines do help you line it up a little bit. But I mean, I don't think it has to be absolutely perfect, but so once you put it down, once it touches something, that sticky part, you're committed. You cannot reposition it. It's done. You're going to have to put it down wherever you stick it. So what you do is they give you this plastic stick and you just kind of rub on it and go over all of the parts and whatever. And I really had no problem taking this off. It was really pretty easy. But the important thing is always make sure that whatever surface you're doing is dry, and do not try and put it over a waxed surface because it will not stick. So isn't that beautiful? So now I'm going to figure out how much of this I can put on, and I realize I cannot put that bottom line on. And that bottom line that I cut off there, guys, I actually overlapped that later on the bottom of the birds, and you'll see that. And all you do is you just put it on top of what you've already done and just rub it on there. So not hard to do. So now I'm going to put this one right above, right there. I mean, I could have squished that little piece in there, but I didn't want to do that. So anyway, you're going to do the same thing. Now, I will have to say the little letters sometimes are a little tricky. So the one thing to do is you start pulling up from the corner, and if something doesn't stick, then you go back and lay it down and redo it. So now I just showed you some brown wax and some clear wax. And I'm going to take these two and take a little bit of the clear wax, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the brown wax, because I don't want to use the brown wax as dark as it is. I want to lighten it up a whole lot. So by doing that, and I'm putting it in these little disposable cup things that I get from, I get these from the dollar store, and I always put stuff in there so that way I'll always make probably too much, but that's okay, because I want to probably use this for several projects because I really like the fact that it's not nearly as dark. You can rub off just about everything you put on it when you put a clear coat with a baby wipe, but this just makes it easier. You just don't put too much. And you also, you save on your products, guys. You can save on it. So now I know it looks like I'm really messing this up. That's what I always think. But I'm putting this in all the little crevices on our molds. I'm concentrating mainly on the edges and the molds. I want to be able to show all the definition of those beautiful molds. If you don't do any kind of distressing or glazing or whatever, it doesn't bring them out nearly as much. And I know it looks like a big hot mess right now, but trust me, it'll look good in the end. Now, this is what I was saying, though. You do not want to put this wax on before you try and put the transfer on. I've seen people on YouTube trying to do that, and I'm like, well, it's not sticking because you put wax down first. It won't stick to the wax. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. So make sure you go all around, and you do realize that you can wipe off most of this, and that's what I'm doing right now with a baby wipe. And I can go in there and get it all. And then I take like a little tiny brush, and I kind of scoop out any of the spots that have too much in it, and then wipe that back. And I just do that all around until I like it. And I don't really put any of the wax on the top. I just take my baby wipe that I've already been using, and I just go over the whole thing with it, and it gives it like a very light antiquing finish. It also seals your transfer. You do have to seal your transfer, guys, after you put it on. And you can do it with wax. You can do it with that water-based sealer that I showed you, any sealer. But you do need to seal it after you do it. And that wax does two things. It pronounces all of your little moldings and antiques it. I guess three things, and seals it. So now I'm taking my piece that I'm going to use on my little, chair, stool, coffee table, whatever, and I'm cutting this out I think it's ephemeral pack from IOD. I showed it to you guys. All these products, I'm showing you them in the as I do them. So if you have questions, let me know, but that's the reason I show you what they are. Just stop the video and look if you're really curious. I'll try and tell you as I go along if I can remember. But anyway, this is the same process. The only thing is that it's a little rougher texture, and it may take a little bit more to get this on, like a little bit more rubbing. But it goes on pretty easy. It wasn't really a problem. And you can see, I think I like the contrast on that because it looks like black peeking back with the red. And I just really like how that looks. I think it's going to look really good. So anyway, once you put it down, you're committed. So you better like where you lay that down because it's very, very sticky. And then we go over the whole thing again, with our little stick. And just kind of go over it and then start in the corner. And if some of it's not up, whatever you do, don't try and rip it all off at one time. Because then you can't piece it. Well, you can piece it back together, but it's hard. Just start in the corner and then just take it off. If it's not on, lay it back down and do it. And I really, really like how that looks. These things look like they're painted on. They really, really do. They're not shiny. They're dull. You can't see the themes. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the shiny part of the transfer, and I'm going over it and I'm burnishing it to make sure that it is on there. You need to do that whenever you do it. And then I'm doing something that y'all are thinking is crazy, but I'm taking some sandpaper and I'm roughing up my transfer to make it look like, it's worn and distressed. And I'm doing that because I feel like this piece is very distressed and I want it to kind of match. I don't want it to look like, I want it to look painted. I don't want it to look like I stuck a sticker on there. And I think I achieved that. So I'm going to take some more of that clear wax I just showed you. I think it's Dorland's. And I'm going to go ahead and go over this whole piece. But I'm taking a little bit of my brown wax, full strength, and I'm mixing it with my hands with this. And I'm just going to go and just kind of go over my whole piece and just kind of dull everything down a little bit. It dulls down the coffee bean that's underneath it, and it dulls down the white. It doesn't really antique it a whole lot, but it does give it a kind of a different look. So, oh, and I forgot to say that the color that I used on this is Milk Jug. I used a different color. It's a brighter white color, and it's a FolkArt color. It works really well. So anyway, we're moving on to our next pieces. These pieces are just 2 trays that I have. One of them I thrifted for $1. It's a silver tray that's very tarnished beyond repair. I'm using a Dollar Tree candlestick that I bought, some Dollar Tree adhesive, my Gorilla Glue, my hot glue gun. And I'm just going to go ahead and take some of my Fix-All. And I actually end up, I think, putting some Gorilla Glue on there later because it came off and I had to redo it. And the Fix-All, I don't know, it bonds quickly, but the Gorilla Glue, once that's dry, you couldn't get it off if you wanted to. So I put the candlestick to that tray, a round tray. And you could have put it either way. You could have put it with the tray part down to where it's like a cake thing, or up. But I opted to have it up. And I found these little tiny feet in my stash, but you can buy them anywhere. Any hobby store has these. They're super, super cheap. And that's just a Dollar Tree tray that I buy. I like these trays. There's kind of an oval one that I can never find. If you find it, get them, because I think a lot of people like these. They're actually pretty substantial. They don't feel like tin. It's about the same weight, I would say, as that silver tray, the round silver tray. So, when you paint these up and everything, you really can't tell the difference. And you paid $1.25 for it. So anyway, I'm doing the same thing with these. I'm making sure I put not only hot glue, but whatever long-term adhesive on there with it. Do not put too much hot glue. Otherwise, you're just hot gluing it on there and you're not putting the long-term. So anyway, I'm putting this on, and yeah, this time I added a little bit of my Gorilla Glue with it because it came off and I wanted to make sure that it stayed on. In hindsight, I could have painted the candlestick and that tray separately. Probably would have been smarter, but I didn't do that, and I had to wait for it to dry to where I could use it. So anyway, now what I'm doing is I am using Buttercream by Dixie Belle, and I love this color. You're going to see me use that a lot, and Drop Cloth, because I like those too. So anyway, I'm just painting over my tray. And it only takes 2 coats. I haven't prepped it. I haven't done anything to it. And trust me, you cannot get this paint off of there later. I try and distress it, and I can't get the paint off. So now I'm doing the same thing. I'm using Dixie Belle on this, but I mixed it with a tiny bit of baking soda. And I'm going around the bottom of the tray, right where see where it meets right there. And I'm shoving that in there because I don't want it to look like I glued a candlestick onto a tray. I want it to look like they're all one piece. And what that will do, you can use salt wash. I personally like salt wash better than baking soda, but they work, they work pretty well. Baking soda works pretty well, but it's not the same. So now here I'm trying to wet distress this thing, and I could not get the paint off. So do not worry about the paint coming off, because it's not coming off, okay? So I end up having to use sandpaper, and I'm just sanding it back to the silver because I want this to look kind of chippy. If you don't like that, then don't do it. So now I'm taking my top coat, and I think it's color Rantic top coat. I like it. It dries pretty matte. And I'm just going to do one coat over this whole thing and then let it dry, so we can move on to our next part. And now I'm going to go ahead and distress this quite a bit and put a top coat on that, just like I did this one. And now I'm looking at my IOD stamps and trying to figure out what I want to put where. And I kind of mix and match different stamps. So, and there I was looking at some of my transfers. I was going to put a transfer up there. I couldn't really find one that I thought would look good. So I ended up putting my crockery stamp. And so I kind of was just deciding what I'm going to do. And I kind of already decided I'm going to put this floral stamp on there. And it is, I haven't used this one before. I have sanded it. You're supposed to sand your stamps both ways a little bit. But I always, on any stamp, like to use it at least once, like to season it. So I'm going to do that on this piece of paper. I just like to do that one time at least before I use a stamp. And I've done so much work on this, I don't want to, I don't want to have to redo it. Now the thing about this, guys, is that this tray has a little bit of that baking soda texture on it. So it's a little rougher texture. So this stamp is not going to be really crisp and clear image. Not because I stamped wrong, but because, the texture of what we're putting it on. But I want it to look that way. I want this to look old and vintage, and it's been around. So I'm making sure there's no extra ink on the sides, and I don't have any kind of stamping back on this because I'm going to have to bend the stamp to fit in there. The very, very bottom piece does not fit, so I'm kind of curving it up on the end. But the way you do a stamp, you just hold it down with one hand and move around. I think it turned out great. There's a little spot where I got a little black. You have a couple seconds to wipe off that ink. So I just took my wipe and did that. And now I'm taking that same clear coat that I've been using, my Color Rantic, and I put a couple drops of my Vintage Photo Distress ink in with some of it in one of those little cups again, because I will save the extra. And I am going to use this as just a sealer for my stamp. And you don't have to seal your stamps because I used archival ink and it's permanent, but it is a good idea to do that. And what this will do is it will tint this a little bit. Now the color I used here is Dixie Belle drop cloth on this. It's a little bit more beigey, but that's why I don't really want to use a dark brown on it already. But I think it's I don't know. There's certain parts of it I think that look a little bit too new to be convincing for me. And later what I do off camera is I actually take some dark brown and go around both these pieces just in little tiny spots here and there to me to make them look realistically old. So I'm kind of getting my placement set up of where I'm going to put my stamps. And now what I'm going to do is I have not used this little chicken with her chick stamp before. I've used the other two. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of season that one and just stamp it on some paper one time. I just like to do that. I think your stamp works better when you do that. So anyway, it's a beautiful stamp, guys. So, again, the texture of your piece that you've been painting over with brush strokes and all that. And I leave my brush strokes in. I like them. I think it makes it. I mean, I'm trying to make these pieces look like painted over tin. But anyway, it won't be the same as it is on paper. Paper would be more crisp. I want it to look kind of faded. So now I'm putting my little rooster down, and you just want to commit and put it down, hold it with one hand, and then kind of push it down. I try and use my little thingy, but the stamp's really too small, and I don't really have enough room to maneuver. It's actually just a hockey puck that I got. It's got felt on the bottom. So I decide I'm going to use my hand, and this was very dangerous of me to do this, but it turns out okay. And anyway, so I really love this stamp. I've used it before, so that turned out just perfect, exactly the way I wanted it to. I don't want it overly crisp, and then you'll see when I stamp this one down, it's a little darker than I want, and I don't want it to be super, super crisp, because if you have an old, piece, it wouldn't be like that. So anyway, and I don't know if I inked the stamp up more, or maybe the tray was, a little smoother in that part and it took the ink better. And it's not that the image turned out bad. It's just that it's a little too dark. And the way that I fixed that is I just took a wet baby right away. You don't have, because it is permanent ink, but you have a few seconds to work with it, because we've put that top coat on, and it gives us a little bit of time. Like, and when I say a little bit of time, I mean seconds, to wipe it back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide it's a little bit too dark in a couple spots, and I'm showing you that. And then I will just take my baby wipe, and I will go and I will distress it with that. And it really does take some of the dark off, and it gets it right the way I want it. So now I'm going to put my last stamp on there. And this is the crockery set. I don't remember what the other one was. They're all French names, so it's hard to remember. Crockery's not hard to remember. But that other stamp with the rooster, it comes with 2 sheets, and oh my God. Just look on IOD on Etsy and just look through them all. I recommend it. And boy, when you go down that rabbit hole, whew. And you guys, you can use stencils, anything you have. In fact, I was going to use stencils on this. Any stamps that you have, you don't have to use what I have. And there you go. I think that turned out super, super cute. So that's pretty much it, guys. Those are all my risers. I do take my black permanent ink, and I'm going to go over all the edges, not completely around, just in spots. And I'm going to go over all the raised portions just in spots. And I'm doing that to add more distress. And when I'm all done, I'm going to take that same top coat, that Color Rantic top coat that I mixed with the ink, and use that as a top coat. And so here's my little piece of scrap wood riser, and I did add a little bit of rub and buff on there also, and it does not look like a piece of scrap wood to me. So this beautiful little nightstand, stool, whatever, I think is amazing. I love all the crackle. I love all the chippiness of it. A different look completely, but beautiful. And here is our little Dollar Tree tray. Get one of those if you... There's so many things I do with these. I really like them. I could just see that like in an Easter or spring display. I think it would look really pretty. And I don't think anybody will guess it's a tray from the Dollar Tree. And then my beautiful little tray that I got for $1 with my Dollar Tree candlestick on there. I love, love, love it. So guys, if you like this, if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more videos, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, hit the notification bell. And thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate you stopping by and checking my channel out.